everyone, it's Dina. I'm back today with a casual beading tutorial where we will be making a memory wire bracelet using little small pieces of memory wire that might be left over from previous projects. So get those little pieces out because we're going to be using those today. The beads are going to be coming from the Bargain Bead Box's April 2025 collection called April Showers. So you'll need to get your Bargain Bead Box out as well to get your supplies out for this. And then we're going to be using some extra seed beads. So the supplies that we'll need from the box are going to be the 8x5mm flower Amazonite rondelle beads. We will need the 6mm crystal faceted round beads in peach opal AB. We're going to need some of the stainless steel round spacer beads that are 4x3mm. And we're going to need the 6.5x3mm 5-petal bead caps. Now, like I said, we're going to use some seed beads today. These are 11-0 Miyuki seed beads. Miyuki is my brand of choice, but you're welcome to use whatever brand that you want to. You can use Toho or Czech or anything else that you'd like. If you're interested in Miyuki's number, this is number 642. It is a dyed salmon silver-lined alabaster color. So go ahead and get these supplies out and get out at least 3 small pieces of memory wire because we're going to make 3 small bracelets to coordinate with each other using these beads. So get your supplies out along with your bead on it board. Meet me back and I'll show you what to do. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is start off with making a loop on one of the ends with one of our sizes of our 6-step bell making pliers. I'm probably going to use step number 2. That's typically what I use for these type of loops. So we're going to put our memory wire inside the loop. Make sure that you can't feel the wire on your fingers that are sitting in between the loop like that. And what you want to do is I usually twist with the wire. Some people twist the opposite direction, completely up to you. And then just twist it around until you get the beginning of your memory wire sticking up on top like that. See if we can see that, like that. So then that's the beginning of our bracelet. So for this one, we're going to do a pattern of starting off with the bead caps. We're going to add our gemstone, then we're going to add some seed beads, and then some of our spacers in between. And we're just going to continue that pattern until the end of it. So we're going to start off with our bead cap, and then add your rondelle, end it with the bead cap going the opposite direction. So that way your bead cap will hug your rondelle in that way. Then we're going to add a series of a seed bead, a spacer bead, and a seed bead. Just like that. So then we start over again. We've got a bead cap going through the bead cap to where the petals will be hugging your gemstone rondelle. And then the other bead cap on the other side. And then our 3 beads of our seed bead, our spacer, and our seed bead. So that is the pattern for this first portion. So all you're going to do is just continue that around until you have met up with the other side. When I mean that, I'll show you in just a second after I get these 3 beads on. What I mean by that is that you want all of your beads to make one complete round. And then by the time that you're done with that one complete round, you should be just about done with the bracelet itself. I think I actually looped my bracelet together. That's funny. There we go. Okay, I got it out. So when you get it all completed, one completion around, then you're going to have just a little bit left over to where you can cut off a little bit of excess more than likely, and then we'll finish off the loop like we did on this side. So go ahead and string on at least enough to where when you go all the way around, you're going to go slightly past this one. And I'll come back and show you what I mean in just a second, so that way if you're a little confused on what I'm telling you, then you'll know in just a minute. So go ahead and complete that and meet me back and I'll show you what I mean. Alright, so this is what I was talking about. We want to string on our beads until we get to a point where we're just slightly after where we started. So here's where we started up here, and this is where I'm at to finish it off. And I do have about, I'd say about 3/4 of a loop left over. So if you have a lot left over, then we're going to need to cut off some of that loop. So I'm going to hold the memory wire like this in my hands, keeping it pretty tight, and the beads pretty tight up against the side, getting my memory wire cutters out. Must use memory wire cutters for this. Then I'm going to just lay the memory wire cutters up against my finger and just use 1 finger width plus that width of the wire, or the pliers, and then cut. And then that's how much I have left over. So it's about 3/4 of a loop. Now we're going to do the same thing that we did the first time. We're going to put the end of our memory wire into the pliers. Make sure you can't feel the wire on the other end of the pliers, and then twist inwards. And then this one, sometimes at the ends, can get a little bit hard to move around, but it'll work out. Now with this, I'm going to, since I have just still a little bit of wiggle room right there, you want a little bit of wiggle room for your beads, so you don't want it too tight. Actually, that's probably okay. If you end up to where this part is facing too close to the underside of the bracelet, which would be up against your skin, it might be kind of scratchy or itchy. If you need to, you can always go backwards with your pliers. So the small loop, like that's the smallest loop or smallest plier of this pliers. This is the one that we're using, the second loop. So if you need to, you can always push back a little bit, and then that should help kind of straighten it out some, and to help get that part of your memory wire that might be scratching your wrist up off your skin a little bit. So then that completes the first bracelet. So all these bracelets are going to end up looking more like a cuff bracelet, but they're all going to coordinate together. So then that's the first one completed. So meet me back, and then I'll show you the pattern for bracelet number 2. Alright, so I have supplies out for bracelet number 2. So this bracelet's going to be just the spacers, the crystal, the peach crystals, and then the seed beads yet again. So I forgot to mention that on the first bracelet I ended up using a total of 14 of the rondelles. So if you want to end up doing the same size bracelet that I did, then that might help you out a little bit quicker, is that I used 14 rondelles. So this pattern is going to be extremely simple. We're just going to start off with one of the spacer beads. Then we're going to do a seed bead, crystal, seed bead. And then it's just going to be very, very simple, just like that. So a spacer bead, and then a seed bead, crystal, seed bead. So you're going to use up quite a bit of your spacers on this one, and I'm going to hopefully not run out of spacers. If I do run out of spacers, then I will come back and probably adjust this, and you probably won't even know that I adjusted it. So, but that's the pattern that I'm going to try out first and see if this works. So continue on with this one as the spacer, and then the seed bead, crystal, seed bead, and then I'll meet you back in a minute. Alright, so I do have enough of my spacers left over. I've got probably about, maybe about 20 or so, somewhere around in there left over after this. And I used, I think it was 18, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yep, 18 of the crystals. So if you want to do the same thing there again, you can do 18 of your crystals. Just make sure to start and end with a spacer bead. So we're going to do the same thing that we did on the first one, as far as cutting off our little bit of an excess, because we do have a little bit of an excess. Just make sure to use your memory wire cutters and then cut that off. Put your excess off to the side and then complete your little loop. And then once you get this loop done, you'll have bracelet number 2 completed out of the 3. Sometimes these loops, the memory wire sometimes does not want to turn. It can be a little brittle too, so just take your time with it. There we go. So now we have bracelet number 2 complete. So up against, whoops, bracelet number 1. There we go. So meet me back and then we'll see what the pattern is going to be for bracelet number 3, which is going to combine both the patterns on these two, the first 2 bracelets. Alrighty, so after you get your loop made on your 3rd piece of memory wire, then our pattern for this one is going to be somewhat similar to a combination of the first 2. So we're going to start off with our first bracelet side amount. So we're going to do the spacer, or the bead cap, and then the rondelle, and then the bead cap. And then we ended up doing a seed bead, spacer seed bead, so we're going to do that again. Then we're going to end up with the gemstone combo one more time. So we're going to do a space or a bead cap, the rondelle, and then a bead cap. So this one is just like what we did in the very first one. Then we're going to do a variation on the second one. So the second one we're going to end up doing a seed bead, a crystal, and a seed bead. And then that will be our pattern for this one. So it's basically the first bracelet that we did, and then just the crystal portion of the second bracelet. That way you decrease the amount of your spacer beads that you're using, because I only have 18 of those left over. So I'll do one more rotation of it. So we're going to do a bead cap, rondelle, bead cap, a seed bead, a spacer, a seed bead. Then we're going to do a bead cap, a rondelle, a bead cap. Then we're going to do a seed bead, a crystal, and a seed bead. So there is 2 rotations of our pattern. So we're going to do that pattern on the 3rd one. So meet me back and I'll tell you how many of the beads that I used on this pattern. And here is bracelet number 3. So I ended up using a total of 14 of my rondelles, and I went a little bit further than I did on the first 2 as far as how far I went around after the beginning of it. Just because I could have ended on the crystal right here, but I don't like to end with seed beads. So I went ahead and just completed another round of the rondelles. So you can either do the 14 or you can stop at the 12, and then if you do stop at the 12 and use that crystal, then omit that last seed bead right there. Reason for that is whenever we do loops like this at the end of memory wire, there's always that potential that the seed bead would get caught up in the loop and then eventually it'll fall off and you'll lose it. So, I mean, it's a seed bead, it's not that big of a deal, but, you know, it's part of your project, or part of your jewelry, so you don't want to lose it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this one off for you so you can see this one as well. And the great thing about these memory wire bracelets is that if you have little small pieces of memory wire left over like this is a great project for that. And you can also just follow along even if you have just one nice long piece of memory wire, and just follow along and do the loops as I did. And just on one nice and long piece. I could have done that a little bit better. It was kind of a bad twirl of memory wire there, but that's okay. We'll get that fixed. Just smush it together a little bit. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So here is bracelet number 3. So great project for if you have little small pieces of memory wire left over, and you can do 3 bracelets where you can wear all 3 of them if you wanted to, or you can wear 1 or 2 of them, whatever you choose to do. So here are our 3 memory wire bracelets that we made in this tutorial. So bracelet number 1, number 2, and number 3. So thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button, and then also hit the button to where you can get notified for whenever I come out with new videos. So thanks again for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Stay tuned for the next video, and I will see you in that next one. Bye now.